In today's video, we discuss if AI is actually replacing jobs, what kind of jobs, how many jobs, and if there are any new jobs that are being created as a result. We also explore if the current layoffs are actually AI replacing jobs or just an excuse for overhiring or broader restructuring. Finally, we look at how your business can address the fear of job loss and how you can upskill your employees with AI. And then from employees, what can you do to enhance your career with AI? Let's accelerate your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, brought to you by 0to60.ai, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information about the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye. I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Bradshaw. And today we're talking about the fear of job loss because of AI. And I think there's so much of this going around, but I also think some of this is hype and some of this is just a little bit of doomer talk. But I also think there are some truth, but it's kind of shrouded, and there's a lot of not quite sure, and a lot of people saying things, but I'm not sure they have actual understanding of what they're talking about.
Totally, Carl. I mean, this is a hot topic. I mean, we run into this in our meetings all of the time, and even outside of work, I have these conversations with people with that fear of job loss, and I think I think there's a fear of the unknown. But I think what we find a lot of the times is when people start to understand a little bit more about AI, it sometimes puts their minds at ease.
Yeah, I think so the one thing I'm not happy about is some companies who are like, it's either them or the media or a combo that are either insinuating or directly saying, hey, we're cutting these jobs because of AI, or we're cutting these jobs to improve something, and then maybe the media latches onto it and says, oh, that has to be AI related. You can't be sure. And we've talked to businesses who have said in the past, hey, we used COVID as a cover to decrease or restructure or right size, whatever they call it, decrease our headcount. I feel a lot of these cuts are still from we overhired during COVID. This is the perfect time for us to, decrease. And we know our share prices will increase because once you cut headcount, it always does that.
You know what? And I agree with you. And I think there's some hype around that and some companies taking advantage of it. But I also think there is that real concern. And I think that I go back to, it's the fear of the unknown, because this is new technology. And I think that, when you're not certain as to the direction that it's going, and when you take a look at the capabilities of AI, it's pretty obvious. Let's be honest. I mean, my opinion, there is going to be job losses, but I think the goal is going where we see job losses. I think there's an importance for society and for corporations to also find job creation. And again, if you go back in history, and I always use this example, right? Like, I'm sure, 150 years ago, there were tons of farriers that were threatened by the automotive industry and didn't like the cars and didn't like mechanics, but it was coming regardless. And so where you might have had 100,000 farriers, once the cars came in, maybe only needed 10,000 farriers. So hopefully the rest of those farriers found other careers or became auto mechanics. And I think we saw that the same thing with, I worked in the media in the 90s, and newspaper, radio, TV. I mean, that was where you wanted to be. The size of the Calgary Herald building was massive, and now it's a big U-Haul storage location. Yeah. So where'd all those people go? They found other jobs, and that's just the way life is. So, I think we just have to address it.
And obviously the speed factor is, it's a little bit faster, but I think we've worked with enough businesses, met with enough businesses that are many companies comfortable right now. I think it's less about laying off, oh, here's my department, I'm going to lay them off because I know AI can do it. Well, that doesn't make sense, because you still need people to use AI to do whatever job. And they also have to know the job, because they have to be ensuring the outputs is in line with whatever the job is, which means you need experienced people who know that. You can't just have random people to do that. I think the big piece that we're probably seeing is we don't need to hire as many, right? It's not about we're going to cut you. It's like, well, usually the transition is easier, but now it's like, well, there's more people in the job market because we don't need to hire additional folks. We don't need to expand to meet the specific targets that we need to. So that's kind of where I see a little bit more, where companies are more careful. It's like, well, can that person or that team do a little bit more with AI now that they previously couldn't do because they have the technology?
Well, I think there's that. I think can you use AI technology and have one person do the job of 3 or 4? I would say yes. If it's not, there's some areas where you could do that today. I think if not, it's coming soon. But I also think we talk about this a lot of times. I always think that most employees these days are reactive. It's one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And there's never a chance to be proactive. And I think that's what AI is going to allow us to do is that you can get the AI to do those repetitive, boring, mundane tasks and now use your people for what they're good at. Get them to use their brain, get them to think, get them to strategize, and really think about how they can make things better as opposed to sitting there for hours cross-referencing Excel files. I mean, that's just a waste of time.
Yeah, and it's like even what we talked about today, the ability to have like a daily brief for you, right? So it's like the text here that in the morning, wherever you get your info from your Outlook, from your Slack, from your wherever it is, right? They would be able to um just summarize all that information, give it to you so that you have a quick understanding of what your day is. I think that alone and the ability to every say hour, every 2 hours, give you a summary of the latest emails, just the emails, maybe even the Slack messages, that cuts so much time from the reactive, oh, I have to check my email, oh, I have to check my Slack, and I'm reacting to this thing. I'm reacting to this thing versus now that it comes to you on a regular cadence without you having to interrupt yourself. It just to me, that little simple thing alone changes a person's workday.
Absolutely. I think it changes their workday, and I think it can be more rewarding for people. I think some people like that boring, mundane, go to work, to zone out, just do that task all day
Mhm.
long. But I think if you can really start to kind of challenge yourself, and generally when you ask for somebody's opinion on something, they'll have an opinion and they're actually quite happy to share their opinion. But if they're stuck doing mundane work, they never get that chance. So I think put the humans to work and get us to start to really utilize the skill set we have with our thinking. But it is, again, I think it goes back down to people watch the 6 o'clock news and they hear that AI is going to take away millions of jobs, and you get guys, some of these AI lab leaders saying the same thing, which that's great news for the corporation that's maybe cutting the headcount and increasing their margins, not great news for society as a whole. And I think we have to take that into consideration as business leaders.
I also think too, I'm not sure if some of these AI lab leaders like maybe fully understand what goes into certain jobs. Like we talked with Steve Major from Bennett Jones, right? And we were talking about, oh, from a commodity law perspective, yes, there's opportunities to, staff a AI agent focused, but from a trial law perspective, like if you're going in front of judges, that is very, very that place is still very difficult. Maybe the surrounding elements going into that, you can automate, use AI, but I'm not sure anytime soon you're going to have that type of legal, in that setting. You're gonna. I don't know if there's a movie from Chris Pratt in on Amazon right now. It's he got charged with murder of I think his wife, and he had to 90 minutes to prove to an AI judge that he didn't do it. I don't know if there's that movie. It's on Amazon Prime, um, but that was a really interesting concept because I was like, it's not gonna happen like that. That's so far out. Very interesting concept, but just in terms of judges right now in our whole legal system, like in many countries, you have to have real people to argue the cases against on a judge. I don't see an AI judge.
No, but I think that's a good point. But I think that still, you need to be aware of the technology and you need to start looking at your skill set and looking at your job. I would be fearful if I was a data entry person and just did mundane work all day long and that's the only value I brought to the table. You will
Mhm.
be replaced. If you're an old school graphic designer that still wants to stick with these old manual processes, there's a good chance that you'll be replaced. And I think, and that goes in any industry, you're going to be replaced if you don't start learning these new tools and technologies and figure out how to adapt it and upskill yourself and
Uh-huh.
figure out how to provide value. Because if you don't add value to a company, you're not going to be there very long.
It depends on the job, whatever that job is, and it depends on also the company and the industry and how they move on. But I want to move to this. Wow, there's obviously a lot of news. What can businesses today do to help alleviate those fears, though, in their current with their current employees?
I think one of the biggest things we talk about this all the time is being open and upfront, and letting your staff know if you are looking to integrate AI into your operations, include them in the process and get their buy-in and get their take, and not be afraid to have people put their hand up and say, hey, I don't like this, or I'm a bit fearful of it, to be able to have those conversations. And we do that all the time. I mean, you get that every week where you run into these AI haters.
Yeah.
And the best way is if you just say, well, tough luck, it's happening regardless. That's not a great way to approach it. So I think being upfront and honest is the key.
And I think too, we talk about this a lot where we say, hey, all your employees know that you have to have some sort of AI skill to remain employable. Again, depending on the job, remain employable and to grow your career too. And I think looking at opportunities with your career. So to me, the big one is how do you increase AI fluency in your company? How do you do that on a regular basis? Not just a lunch and learn, not just a simple LMS course, but like you got to retrain literally every 3 months. Like that's how it should be.
Totally. And you talk about that all the time. The fact that that's an actual real advantage from a recruitment and a retainment standpoint is that if you've got company A that is giving their employees training and access and including them in the process and all kinds of new opportunities, versus company B that's sticking their head in the sand and ignoring it all, well, me as a potential employee, I'm going to look at the company that's going to give me that opportunity, not the dinosaur that's, stuck in the, old times, and it isn't looking at the technology. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. And I think as well, I think that, you know, if you are looking at replacing certain jobs, again, I don't know, that honesty and integrity to me is the best way to do it. And that can cause, because the worst case, and we've seen this too, is it you don't say a whole lot, you bring in guys like us, and now you start to get that rumor mill going within
Mhm.
an organization, and that could be a total culture killer real
Yeah.
quickly,
Yeah.
if you're not sharing the experience and getting people's input.
But I think there's different ways to do it, right? There's companies that are like, we are going full AI, whether you're on board or not, we're going to go this direction. On the opposite side, it's like, we want your feedback on AI and we're going to take it slow. There's some things to say about like a leader saying, hey, we're going to go all AI. We're going to, provide the budget. We're going to give you tools. We're going to give you training. Let's go. There's another thing to be said about like, hey, we're investigating. And I think that, which many leaders I feel kind of are trying to straddle the fence. We're like, oh, we're going to try AI, but I don't want to upset the boat. It's like, well, if you're going to use AI and you can see the advantage of it in your industry, you can see the competitive advantage of it. Like, I don't think you should be straddling any fences. You should be going all in versus trying to kind of like please a bunch of people who may not like AI, but you want to keep. I was like, this is one of those things this is why you're getting paid to be a leader. This is one of those things you've got to make a decision on and go with it. Either you're in or you're out to me.
Well, and you just mentioned the competitive nature, and I think that's the thing about it, is I think that, from a business standpoint, you need to stay competitive. And that in the future is going to require the integration of AI, because if you don't do it and your competitors are doing it, you're going to be out of business. And I think that's the thing. Like when COVID came along and I had my company, we laid off, I think, 70% of our staff. And everybody was saying, well, this is the wrong decision and you got to watch out for your people and everything else. And I looked at it and I said, if I don't and I hang on too long, there's going to be nobody employed. The company's going to go under because we aren't going to be able to afford to stay in business. So we cut heavy. It passed. We came back, and the company is still thriving today. I'm not involved, but I've sold the company. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing with AI. Is business leaders need to make those tough decisions to stay competitive.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that I wouldn't recommend is, and we hear this sometimes from executives, where they're like, "My focus is cut headcount. Tell me how I can cut headcount."
Yeah.
And I've heard that from a few people, and I'm kind of going, again, that shouldn't be the main goal of AI. It should be, how can we be more efficient? As you said off the top, how can we do more with the team and the resources we have? as opposed to cutting down and becoming that one person, 1 billion company, $1
Yeah.
billion
Yeah.
company that they talk about. Because great if you're the one person
Yeah.
with the
The
billion
one
dollar, but
person. Yes.
but that
Yes.
also opens up another one. We had a client that said, I was in San Francisco and I went in one of those Waymos. That's awesome. All these driverless cars. And I look at it and I say, okay, well, you sell XYZ product. What happens to those 2,000 cab drivers that are now unemployed because they're replaced by Waymo? You've now got 2,000 people that don't have an income to buy your product. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. I want to actually go back to another thing you mentioned. It's like, when new technology comes out, there are new adjacent industries that pop up too, right? Like there were 150 years ago, there wasn't a web developer. Or even 10 years ago, there was like, now there is like whatever the job is that didn't exist, like for an industry. So, a mobile development specialist, right? That I remember that.
A social
Well,
media coordinator.
exactly. Those people didn't exist, but those are staple jobs now, right? So, for example, let's take the Waymo. Sure, you may not have the drivers, but to me, this is where like really smart businesses or even employees start thinking about what are the adjacent things that go around a driverless car? And what does that look like, right?
Yep.
What are the things adjacent now that come up because you have AI? One thing that was very funny was like, so here's a very simple example. So OpenClaw, right? I was listening to a podcast and people were like, oh, a majority of people who, created an OpenClaw were like, hey, now what do I do? What am I going to do with it? I don't know how to do this. But another big segment is they don't actually know how, it actually doesn't run properly. It can't do the things that other people are doing. So it's interesting that a bunch of businesses have come out for $49 or 49, whatever the price is. We will create for you the OpenClaw that actually works. While you could do it, like you were saying, I could change my own, but why do I just go somewhere else? These are the businesses that have started popping up because all these people are like, well, I don't know, like it doesn't work. It's like, oh, here for $50, we can do it for you. That's what I'm thinking. Like, what are those businesses? What are those things that now are going to come up because of this? And I also start thinking, even though this is moving so fast, what are the auxiliary stuff that's kind of pop out as more and more people use AI? There's other things that start having to create dependencies and integrations with. That to me is interesting, what that looks like.
Totally. Because again, I think from a society and a corporate responsibility standpoint, the whole idea of a UBI, universal basic income that people talk about, that to me is just a great big welfare system. And if people don't have purpose, I think we're going to have a bigger societal problem. I mean, I think we'd see an increase in mental health issues and addiction and crime and everything else. So I think that we ultimately have a responsibility as business leaders to pay attention to this. And I think as well, though, if you're think about the job that you do, or if you're a young person, think about the career you want to go into, because I got it like, it's going to be a while before they got robots swinging hammers. So if you think about the trades, there's lots of opportunities there. Or again, if you can think about, how you can use your brain to, like, let's face it, there weren't AI consultants 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or very few. We've created jobs, because we've dug into this, we've learned it, and we've become very knowledgeable in this area. And that's a job that didn't exist a number of years ago. So I think that's what everybody needs to take a look at, rather than just bitching and complaining about the fear of job loss.
Yeah. I guess to end off with, I think one of the things that I think companies should do now is, yes, train, get your team fluent, start, rebuilding your processes and whatnot. One thing that I don't think many companies, just because they don't have time, is to start thinking of what are the new roles that your company can actually create because you have the time if you've implemented AI correctly. And also outside of the roles, what are the new avenues that your business can actually get into because you're not bogged down by all the stuff, which in turn creates new opportunities for your current people and other people as well. Most businesses do not think that. They usually just think, hey, we got to improve our efficiencies and do exactly what we're doing. It's like, no, well, that's not the whole point. Your business isn't just going to do exactly what it's going to do. Now you have an opportunity to do something, grow your business or go into different elements because you have that capacity now. Learn more about AI's impact on jobs, training, and career opportunities by watching these videos here. Enjoyed today's episode? Want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.